I know you have a lot of competing obligations as students, so we really appreciate you taking the time to engage and connect with us today. We want this session to be as engaging as possible, so feel free to take yourself off mute, raise your hand, use the chat feature. We are going to go over benefits throughout the day or the afternoon, so if you do have questions about any terminology or any specific benefits, now is a perfect time to learn about them. We're hoping that as mid-November, you might have some offers coming in, whether that's for an internship or a full-time offer. So we're really hoping that this information is pretty timely for you all. So if we go to the next slide, I just want to do a quick overview of the agenda for today. Quick introductions. My name is Calvin Bovey. As Lily mentioned, I'm the university recruiter at APS, Arizona Public Service, and my main role is to connect with candidates like yourself to make sure that we have the next generation of talent coming into our organization. Vaish, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Sure. My name is Vaish. I graduated from ASU a couple years ago, and I was also a part of SWE, and which is actually where I did hear about APS. So I did an internship here, and now after the rotational program at APS, I'm now in a role in their distributed resources engineering team here.
Great, thanks for joining us. So we'll go over just a little bit about APS, a company overview. We'll go over some common benefits and terminology, and then also leave some additional time for questions at the end. But again, feel free to ask those questions throughout the presentation. So who is APS? So APS, our vision is to create a sustainable energy future for Arizona. We're the largest power utility company here in the state, and our mission is to provide clean, affordable, and reliable energy to our customers. You might have heard that we've recently set a clean energy commitment of delivering 100% clean energy by 2050. And we don't know exactly how we're going to get there, but we do know that it's going to require us to innovate, forge new partnerships, and really adopt new technologies and think differently than we ever have before. So it's a really exciting time to be part of this industry. So at a high level overview, what is it that we do? So you'll see on this slide here that we generate electricity, whether that's at one of our power plants or through solar. And then we distribute that energy to our customers, whether that's residential or commercial like ASU or another large business. I like to say that we keep Arizona running. Really, without electricity, there's very little that we can do in today's modern society. We certainly wouldn't even be able to be on the call today without electricity. And we do all of this with over 6,000 employees. We're headquartered in downtown Phoenix and have operations all throughout the state of Arizona and then also part of New Mexico as well. So before we jump into benefits, let's think about how you get that job offer first. So finding the right fit is really important. So let's take a couple minutes just to discuss the importance of finding that right fit. So whether you're looking for a full-time or an internship role, it's really important to do that company research. And through that research, hopefully you'll be able to leverage the experience that you already have. And then also think about what you excel at. What do you enjoy and what are you passionate about? So as you do that, think about the skills and experience that a company values. You're going to find this through their job postings. So looking through their job postings, you'll get familiar with what those specific skills are. And then news and recent articles can easily be found just by Googling a company. So what are some of the recent press releases? And then also company culture. Do your values align with their mission and vision? And a lot of times you can get a better idea for their company culture by engaging with a number of employees from that organization. So my experience might look different than Vaish's. I wasn't an intern, she was. So I feel like everyone has a unique perspective when it comes to their company culture and how they engage at the organization. So the more people you can connect with within a company, the better you'll position yourself. And then who are their clients, products, and services? If it's a publicly traded company, you also can Google and get access to their financial reportings. So you can get a better idea of, the financial stability of that organization as well. So if we think about all of that, you have the opportunity to weigh your options. And I like to encourage students to be open and exploratory, especially in the job market today. We know that the pandemic has really shifted things, and certain roles that were available a year or two might not be available today. So certainly be exploratory and maybe look at some of those industries or organizations that might not have been on your target list. And when you're weighing your options, these are potentially some of the things that we would hope to have you consider. So what are some of the past projects and the department initiatives that you'll be working on? What's the program or company size? We know that not all candidates will fit within one size. So do you prefer a large, medium, or small company? We all thrive in different organizations and different sizes. Professional development, that's one benefit that we'll talk a little bit about later. Community building, what's the opportunity for you to engage within the community? Exposure to leadership, how quickly can you advance within the organization? And then industry education. So after your degree, what are some of those opportunities to continue that education? So after you consider all of that, let's jump in a little bit more into the actual benefits within a company. So total compensation is more than just your base salary. It's going to be those direct compensation like your base salary and those indirect compensation. So indirect compensation are things like the Social Security payments on your taxes, a 401k match, a health savings account, your insurance benefits, and we'll review these a little bit more in depth. So benefits will really help you understand the culture of a company as well. So the more a company invests in its employees can really help you understand what that employer is like. And then benefits can really depend on particular industries as well. So we'll talk a little bit later about the power utility industry. Most utilities still offer pensions, but you might not see that, say, in the tech industry. Within the tech industry, you might see more of a unlimited snack bar. So benefits could vary depending on a particular type of industry that you're looking to go into. So these are some of the common benefits that we'll review today and go a little bit more in depth on the following slides. So a lot of times, when you hear benefits, a lot of people think of medical, vision, dental, a health savings account, a 401k and other retirement plans, PTO, paid time off, disability and life insurance, as well as leaves of absence. So if we start with health insurance, again, this is one of the main benefits that I think most people think of when they hear a total compensation package. So APS, for example, we offer two types of plans for our employees to choose from. One is your high deductible plan, and one is a more traditional plan. So your high deductible plan would be an option for someone who wants a lower premium to come out of their paycheck, but then they pay more when they actually go and get treatment. And with a high deductible plan at APS, you also opt in for the health savings account. And the traditional plan is more of a higher premium out of your paycheck. So per paycheck, you might see, $100 come out every 2 weeks. But then when you actually go to the doctor, you don't pay as much for your treatment. Your copay is going to be less on the traditional plan. So on this next slide, you'll see the comparison between those two types of plans. So some of the terms that you'll see here on this chart is a deductible. So the deductible is the amount that you pay out of pocket for the covered expenses before your plan begins paying those particular benefits. So a copay is usually a fixed amount that you pay each time that you go and get that particular treatment. And then with most plans, you also have out-of-pocket maximums. So after you've paid your deductible for the year, you then, don't have the cost of your out-of-pocket. And then the health savings plan, the HSA, is just as the name would suggest, it's a savings account that you contribute to your pre-tax dollars for any type of medical expense that you're going to have. So this could include your copays, this could include your prescriptions that you receive on a monthly basis. And what's nice about a health savings account is that it will roll over from year to year. So you have an option to put your pre-tax dollars in there. And then what's nice, you'll see here on this chart that APS actually gives employees, if you're an individual, $750. If you're a family, you'll get up to $1,500. So depending on which plan you select is going to be based on your personal preference and then also your health and well-being. We'll actually go through two different scenarios that will help you walk through these two different plans. So example one, David is single and in generally good health. He saves healthcare costs by using a doctor that's in his network for his annual checkup. He also utilizes a 90-day supply for his medication and his outpatient, and he will have an outpatient surgery this year. So you'll see between these two, one is cheaper for him. The consumer plan would be cheaper than the select plan. And again, this is knowing that David is going to be having a planned surgery. We oftentimes see healthy individuals select a higher deductible plan because they don't foresee having to necessarily have a surgery. So in the case that they would have to have emergency surgery, they would pay a percentage of that copay before they would reach that deductible. And then let's take one other example. So Vanessa's married. Her and John have one young child, and they receive preventative care throughout the year utilizing the network providers, and they typically have 4 non-preventative office visits per year. So you'll see this chart compares the family's annual out-of-pocket costs for each plan, assuming that they're on the family coverage. So again, each plan is really going to vary based on the type of care that you're going to be receiving for the particular calendar year. Before I move on from healthcare benefits, do we have any questions on these types of plans? Or any of the terminology that's been shared so far? I think at the end of the day, the biggest thing to consider when it's coming to selecting your healthcare is what you want to come out of your biweekly paycheck and what contributions your employer is going to pay. So, at APS, for example, the consumer plan for me as an individual was $83, and then the select plan was $36 every pay period. So APS pays a significant portion for the rest of my healthcare.
I had a question.
Yes.
Is it relatively easy to change the plan if you decide, if your circumstances change or you have different priorities or you do get married or some sort of situation like that? Is it easy or is it kind of a pill? I don't know if you even know the answer to that, but.
Yeah, that's a great question, Rachel. So we actually just went through what's called open enrollment. So every year, and this is pretty standard across all organizations, every year there's an open enrollment period where you have the option to select which benefits you want to enroll in. So as college students, for example, you might not want to be on a company's health insurance plan because you do have those premiums that you have to pay every paycheck. So if you are comfortable staying on your family's healthcare until you're 26, that's actually going to save you money if your family is willing to still keep you on their plan. So open enrollment is an opportunity for you to select when you want to enroll in those benefits. And it's usually a 3-week period towards the end of the year. So our open enrollment started in the middle of October and it just closed 2 days ago on November 10th. So we have the option of going in and changing any type of plans that we wanted to. And if there's any other life events, like you mentioned, whether you get married or you have a child, those are life events that will allow you to change your plans. But otherwise, it's closed throughout the rest of the year, unless you do have a life event like a marriage.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, let's move on to dental. So dental insurance, most companies, again, will only offer 2 different types of dental insurance. One is a PPO, and then the other one is an HMO. So a PPO means that you need to select a dentist that is in network. So for example, if your dental insurance is through Cigna, you would have to go in through Cigna and look to see what providers are in network. And HMO is different, where you can have the option to go out of network and then you can pay deductibles as well. So this one, there's not a ton of variances between the 2 different plans, except between the networks, right? Do you want a larger network or a smaller network? And then also, just thinking about, orthodontics, that's a big one as well. If you already had braces as, a young adult, then maybe you choose a plan that doesn't cover that. And then maybe you have a cheaper monthly expense coming out of your paycheck. And then for vision, usually companies offer 1 to 2 vision plans as well. What's great about these types of benefits is that, with vision and your health insurance and dental, if you go and do preventative care, like a teeth cleaning or a yearly physical or your yearly eye exam, there's usually little to no copay. So that means that you can see, 3 different types of doctors within the year at no expense. So vision, will vary based on each company. Sometimes you can get new glasses once a year. Sometimes it's once every 2 years. Me, for example, I actually got LASIK eye surgery 3 years ago. And, my insurance did cover a portion of that surgery. But now, because I've had that, I've actually elected to not pay and opt in for vision insurance because I don't need contacts or glasses at this time. So again, each individual is going to be unique in their situation. So I just share that as an example. Any questions about either the dental or the vision insurance?
What does this mean for someone that's like coming on to a company? What does it mean for them? Like, I don't know, if they're starting right after their job, like if they're starting in May, that's nowhere near the open enrollment period. So how does that transition work?
Yep. Yeah. So that's so when you become an employee is when your open enrollment period starts. So at APS, for example, from your very first day of employment until your 31st day of employment is your open enrollment period. So that's when you would select your benefits at that time. So during orientation is when you would, get some of this more detailed information. As a recruiter, I like to provide all of our candidates when they receive an offer, our full benefits guide, which is 25 pages. So it will go into all of these different benefits so that when you're comparing your offers, you understand what types of benefits you're going to be eligible for once you do come on as a full-time employee. That's a great question. And then that is also something to consider. So APS, for example, your benefits do kick in on your 31st day of employment. Some companies will make you do kind of a 90-day probationary period before your benefits kick in. And then some employers, on day one, you have access to, some benefits. So that's also something to consider as well is, again, depending on your individual circumstance, if you're a traditional college student and still on a family plan, it might not make too big of a difference if you have to wait, 90 days for your insurance to kick in. But if you're, on, a different type of healthcare plan and already paying out of pocket, that might make a difference to you, whether it kicks in the first day or the 30th or the 90th day as well. So if we move on to 401k, so 401k is an option. Most employers nowadays offer a 401k, which allows you an option to put your part of your salary into a retirement account. There's two types. You can say, take money out of my check before it's taxed, or you can take money after it's taxed, which would be a Roth IRA. So I personally opt for the Roth IRA because I know that it's pretty rare that our tax rates by the time I retire will be the same. They'll probably be higher. And then any of that growth within that IRA account, once I take that money out, it's not going to be taxed. So I would rather be taxed upfront as a young employee rather than being taxed on the back end when I'm retiring and taking that money out. And if you think about the taxes, you're paying taxes on the growth of that money if you do the pre-tax dollars, but the Roth IRA, you're not paying tax on the growth of that money. So with every company, you have the option of whether you want it to be pre-tax dollars or after-tax dollars. What's really important when it comes to a 401k, there's two things to really be looking out for. One is the company match. So APS, for example, we will match 6% of what you contribute to your 401k. And that will start 6 months after your service. And then the other part is the vesting period. So vesting means if you were to leave the company, at what point are you vested in this retirement plan? So prior to working at APS, I worked at ASU, which is a state university. So I was a state employee. So the vesting period at ASU was 5 years. So I left at 4.5 years, which meant I got the money I contributed to my 401k, but I did not get the money that ASU was contributing to my 401k because I was not fully vested until after 5 years. So at APS, you're vested immediately. So you start getting that 6% after 6 months, and you will get that contribution of what APS has paid to you as well. So again, two really important things here is the percentage that the company will match, and then at what point are you vested? Do you have any questions on the 401k? Also, what's great about 401ks is that companies use, large financial firms like a Vanguard, Fidelity, and, APS, for example, we use Fidelity. And part of the benefit is that I can call up a tax advisor and get free tax advice or financial advice on retirement. So in addition to my 401k, I can call and, ask about different retirement accounts and, how I can save for my future. So thinking about retirement, APS, I did mention that we do provide a pension. It's not your traditional pension, back in the day where you would get your full salary when you retire. What we do with the pension is it's percentage based. So based on your age and your years of service with the company, we will put an additional, percentage away from each of your paycheck towards an additional retirement account aside from your 401k. So, again, depending on how long you're with the company and your age, this is another way for you to get retirement dollars. And for this, you'll see on the vesting period, it's 3 years, meaning, if you left the company at 2.5 years, you wouldn't receive any of your pension. But if you left 3.5 years, you would get that pension, those pension dollars that have been put away for you. So obviously, the longer you stay with the company, the larger your pension's going to grow. But what's great about this pension plan is that you're not locked in should you choose to leave the company, say 10 or 15 years down the road. Whereas a traditional pension plan, you would have to stay with the company for, 20 plus years. So this is kind of, if a company does offer a pension, this is traditionally what pensions are offered nowadays. Are there any questions on what a pension would look like? All right. Well, moving on to PTO, paid time off. So work-life balance is really important to me, as I'm sure it is to all of you as well. So as you'll see here, the longer you stay with a company, oftentimes your PTO is going to increase. So APS, we do not differentiate. We don't have sick time versus vacation time. We give you one lump sum. So for individuals that are healthy, you can use that time, for vacation. So there are some companies that do give, vacation and sick time. And unfortunately, I feel like a lot of times your sick time will continue to build up. And if you don't have a planned surgery or, a relative that you need to take care of, I feel like, unfortunately, you don't have the benefit of, taking that sick time. So I would prefer working at an organization like APS where I get one bucket of PTO. So I'm not penalized if I am healthy, or I don't feel guilty that I have to call in sick because it's my hours and I choose how I want to use it, whether it's for vacation or sick time. What's also important to consider when it comes to your paid time off is how do you accrue it? So a lot of companies will traditionally give you a couple hours per pay period, meaning when you start an organization, your PTO balance starts at 0. So it could take you a year to start accruing any significant time off. What's great about APS is that we give it to you in one lump sum. So say you start in, June after you graduate, you would have half of those PTO hours given to you right up front. So, if you wanted to, take a vacation in June or July, as you work that out with your hiring leader, you would be able to do that. Whereas other companies, you really wouldn't be able to take a day off until you really start to accrue that time. Also with PTO, it's really important to consider what holidays do the companies honor. So there's 9 paid holidays in addition to your PTO. So if we just take, for example, an employee who's been with the company for 2 to 4 years, they're getting 20 days off, which is a month, and then almost 2 additional weeks of holiday pay. So that's 6 weeks off within your first 2 to 4 years at the company. And then also another thing to consider with paid time off is, as depending on the type of role that you're going to be going into, most of the time you're going to be a salaried employee. So as a salaried employee at APS, for example, if it's anything less than a half day, we don't ask you to put in vacation time, meaning that if you need to, leave at 3 o'clock for a doctor's appointment, we don't expect you to put in 2 hours of PTO. There might be some days where you work 9 hours instead of 8 hours. So as a salaried employee, we give you that benefit to really manage your schedule. And that's also something that I would really encourage you to consider is the work-life balance when you're looking at, 2 competing offers. If one has a higher base salary, are they going to maybe expect you to work 50 to 60 hours? Or, is the work-life balance, you work your 40 hours and, that's the company culture. You work hard for 40 hours and then, you enjoy the rest of your time with your family or, your other hobbies. So again, really take that into consideration when you're reviewing 2 different types of offers. Any questions on PTO?
Calvin, did you want to mention anything about rolling over PTO? Because I think that's something I found different companies have different policies on.
Yeah, that's a great point, Vaish. Thank you. So some companies, it is use it or lose it, meaning if you get your 120 hours for the year, you either use it or you lose it. At APS, we allow you to carry over up to 120 hours. While you can carry over time, we strongly encourage our employees to use it. So again, we want our employees to have that work-life balance. So we do build it in, that you can carry over some hours, but we do strongly encourage our employees to take their vacation. This year, for example, with COVID, a lot of, vacation time was canceled. So we're strongly encouraging, employees to use their time and only carry over 120 hours, hopefully so that they can find a little bit of that work-life balance towards the end of the year and towards the holidays. There are also some companies that have, you'll see this sometimes at tech companies, where they have unlimited vacation time, meaning you don't get a bank of PTO, you're kind of just trusted to do your work. I have had friends who have had, PTO plans like this, and they feel like, you're somewhat penalized. If I told somebody that I was taking 6 weeks off within the year, that to me, that seems like a lot, but that's what all employees get at APS. So I feel like if you go and work for a company that has an unlimited PTO policy, I've heard that you actually take less time off than you would if you had a traditional, bank of PTO.
I wasn't sure if you're going to talk at all about sabbaticals, but if you know anything about that or if APS provides that, I'd love to learn more about it because I had an employer that offered a sabbatical type program.
Yes, yep, that is a benefit that we do offer, and we'll cover that a little bit later in some of the other benefit slides. So great question, Lily. We'll get to that in just a little bit. All right, so I know that when we traditionally talk about benefits, you're entering your career, but it's also important to consider, as you grow with an employer, what some of those additional benefits are. So, I don't think anybody, expects to get sick or injured, but it's something to, definitely consider. We offer all of our employees disability insurance. So if something were to happen and you couldn't work, you would still get paid a percentage of your pay. So again, usually it's a percentage, so that's something that you would want to be mindful of. And then, this is also where you would think of your, additional, pregnancies included here within your length of time within the disability. And then life insurance. So life insurance, again, early on in your career, you're healthy. Nobody really wants to think about death, but I strongly encourage you to review what type of life insurance policies are out there. What I like to do is at least my salary and then any debt that I have. So whether that's student loans or a mortgage payment or a car payment, so that you don't leave that debt or that burden to any family member. So most companies will offer you some type of life insurance, and then you also have the opportunity to increase that at at a premium cost. So just something to keep in mind as well. Again, some of these benefits you don't traditionally tend to think about early on in your career, but something to be mindful of for sure. And then paid parental leave. So at APS, we have, both for the father and the mother, paid time off, which is 8 weeks. And then, should you choose to adopt, you're also, receiving the parental paid leave as well. So this type of leave, I've seen most companies offer anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks. So again, most companies are going to provide some type of leave, but it's really going to vary on the length of the leave. But I think it's pretty common now where you see both leave for the mother and the father for newborns. And then we do have leaves of absences. So Lily had mentioned one of them on the list here. So federal leaves. So there's 2 types. So, those that are covered under the law. So FMLA, so family medical leave, and then ADA. So, that's the disability. Those 2 leaves, you would have to fill out paperwork, and then you would leave and then have time off until you get better. You don't, you're actually not active within the system, so you can't check your email. These types of leaves are so that you could really focus on whatever issue it might be that you need to. So whether under this type of leave, you could go on a stress leave. You could go on, I know, some people are going on leaves during COVID to help take care of sick family members. So this is where some of those benefits would come in. And then some of the not as common leaves that you'll see within companies are sabbatical, education, and then just a general leave. So sabbatical is, usually after you've been with an employer, ranging anywhere from 5 to 10 years, you have the option of doing a sabbatical leave, which can typically range anywhere from 1 to 3 months. And again, this is an opportunity for you to kind of unplug, recharge, and not check your email. It's a true leave from the company. An education leave. So if you wanted to, pursue an advanced degree, most of the time with an educational leave, it might be, you reduce your hours to part-time. so that you could maybe do, you know, a professional degree program where maybe your classes are in the evening. So maybe you would leave, you know, at, you know, 2 or 3 so that you could focus, you know, the rest of the time on school. And then some additional benefits. So adoption services. We also do an employee assistance program. So an EAP became really popular this year during COVID. So at APS, for example, you know, all employees had access to telemed and mental health. So if I wanted to see a therapist, you know, I had an option to see, you know, a counselor for 5 sessions at no cost at all. And then after your 5 free sessions, you know, you would just pay your copay. So the EAP programs are becoming more and more popular within organizations. And the EAP can range anything from, you know, marital counseling, you're buying a house for the first time. So the employee assistance program is really meant to help with any kind of external factors, so that you can really bring your whole self to work and really be productive. Tuition reimbursement. So at APS, after 6 months of being with a company, you have the option of enrolling in the tuition reimbursement program. So again, a really good opportunity to invest in you and your education, because we know that we want our employees to be lifelong learners. Employee discounts. Once a week, I get an email from an employee discount portal that we're part of. So that can be reduced hotel rates, rental cars, TVs, computers. I actually downloaded the Calm app, the meditation app, at a significantly reduced rate through this employee discount program. So a lot of just kind of random benefits through that portal. A wellness program. So we use a app called Limeade where you can do team challenges. So, you know, in the beginning of COVID, we were challenging our coworkers to, you know, do stretching, to go on walks, and through the app, we would log our hours. So it's, you know, friendly competition, and then you also get points. So just for me, for logging my, my yearly physical with my doctor, I got a $50 Amazon gift card. So they encourage you to be in the app, and then, you know, throughout the year, there's different challenges, and the more points you get, you know, the more gift cards that you can receive. We also do offer military benefits. So anyone who is still, you know, maybe in the reserves or active duty, we offer them the benefit, you know, should they have to go and serve, they would still get their pay within the company. We also offer bereavement. So should you lose a family member, there's bereavement, and then also civic duty would be covered as under jury duty. So if you, you know, get called and you might be out for 1 day all the way up to, you know, potentially a couple weeks or a month, depending on the case, APS will still pay your salary during that time while you're doing that civic duty. With that, that concludes the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions that you might have.
So I, at one point, worked at a company that offered sabbatical as like a paid leave benefit of like a sort of bonus extra fancy PTO that you earn after 4 or 7 years of service.
Mm-hmm.
Would you consider that to be slightly uncommon? Because the way that you described the leave sound like it was we're allowing you to leave, but we're not going to pay you while you're gone.
Yeah, so sabbaticals do depend on the employer. Honestly, I would have to look a little bit more into our plan at APS on what the sabbatical leave is, but I do know that at the very minimum, you still do have access to your like healthcare, vision, dental. So, if you do take an unpaid leave, at least you still would have access to your benefits. Whereas that's not the case if they don't offer a sabbatical. So yeah, unfortunately, I haven't been with the company long enough to look into the sabbatical. But yeah, that is definitely an option to definitely consider.
Thank you. And then I was also kind of wondering if you had any sort of intuition, and this might be more of a question for Vaish, as to, I guess, what entry-level engineers should kind of expect or anticipate out of like a PTO offer or something along that lines. Like, were the benefits part of what made your APS decision?
I would say that was definitely part of it. I think having interned here, I also got to see the cultural experience compared to, I also interned at another tech company the next year. So there were some differences in the way PTO was taken. And I think APS also compensates at definitely like at industry standards. I think the compensation is also very fair. So I think having that more amount of PTO was really important to me, and then being able to roll over so that I could plan different vacations and different life events. With having that ability to roll over PTO, I think made a big difference. So in general, the cultural part plus a little bit of the benefits did play a little bit of a role, I would say, in my decision.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Lily. Vice John, a couple important pieces. So as far as compensation goes with our base salaries, we do market research every single year. So we do go out to the market and see what, what the base salary should be, what's competitive. And we'll also do market adjustments, meaning, if you're with a company and we go out and do research and have found that, engineers in Phoenix, there's been a pay increase over the last year, we'll automatically market correct our salaries for all of our employees, where some companies might not do that for all employees. They might just do that for the new incoming employees. So sometimes you're actually punished for staying at an organization long term because you only get a small increase each year. Whereas at APS, we'll actually do a market correction for all employees. So that's something that you wouldn't necessarily know, or I don't know if I would necessarily ask, during the recruitment process, but that's definitely something to consider.
If no one else has any more questions, I have another question, which is, I think you just kind of pointed to, like, maybe that's not a question you ask during the recruitment process, but do you have a general suggestion as to when you start asking these questions, or if your search should remain primarily in the internet grapevine of Indeed and Glassdoor and stuff like that?
Yeah, another great question. So during the recruitment process, I'll say, sometimes at the career fair, I will have candidates ask, about PTO, and I think it's a fine line. To me, some of the candidates that have asked about benefits have done it in a way where they didn't seem like it seemed more about like, I don't want to work. I just want to know more about the PTO policy. So I think if you do it in a tactful way, you can do it throughout the recruitment process, but I would maybe just do it in a way during the interview process, right? So when they say, do you have any questions for us? I would say, tell me what your typical day looks like. When do you start? When do you end? What do you do for lunch? Do you all go out as a team, or do you sit at your desk? Because that will really also tell you about the culture. So I feel like there's indirect ways to ask about these benefits in a tactful way. But as you get closer to the offer stage, that's definitely, if they don't share like a full benefits guide of 25 plus pages of what their benefits are, that's definitely the time to ask for it.
Sweet. Does anyone else have any more questions for our guests here tonight? Thank you guys so much for a fantastic and very thorough presentation, by the way.
Yeah, I hope it was helpful. Hopefully you learned at least a couple different things, some new terminology, even if it's just one or two kind of nuggets that you're taking with you. I hope that it was valuable for you all.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was going to say the same thing as Lily. That was so in-depth. I really appreciate it. And I know the rest of us do too, but that was a lot. That could not have been easy to put all together and explain all of it. So we really appreciate your time and your commitment to doing that for us. Thank you.
Absolutely, our pleasure. If there are any additional follow-up questions, Lily or Rachel, you have my contact information. I'm also on LinkedIn, so I'm always happy to connect with students. I love engaging. So any questions that you have, whether it's related to benefits, APS, not APS, I always just kind of like to talk about careers in general. So feel free to connect.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I personally had no idea what a Roth IRA was, but kept hearing about it. So I'm so glad you explained it because it makes so much more sense now. If no one else has any more questions for now, we'll go ahead and we'll post Calvin's contact information in the Slack after the meeting. Thank you guys all so much. Everyone who came by and said hi, and especially our presenters. We're going to go ahead and sign off and hope you guys have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.